Everywhere has a housing shortage, right? We're all housing shortages, but what we were finding out is that people that were, um, like you had said before, school teachers, plant managers, engineers, um, didn't really have a place to come here. And so we're really very fortunate in Grantsburg in that we have a healthy industrial park, we have a wonderful school, we have a hospital here. For a rural community of 1,400 people and a school district that has 260 kids in your high school, it's a pretty unique setup for us. And yet we also heard the stories about, we know teachers that our kids have been teaching our kids that are living in Minnesota, are living 35, 40 miles away. And we got a lot of really neat things going on. We're in the brewery here, but that they weren't living in our community. And then what would happen is that they wouldn't stay because eventually they get tired of the drive, they get tired of the commute. They're in larger areas where maybe there are more amenities and that kind of thing, and so eventually they don't stay. And not only was that happening with teachers, but it was happening with our plant managers were telling us the same thing. Anytime that we were looking in businesses, we would hear about them looking to hire people, and they don't live here. And we're lucky in that in our industrial park, a lot of what we have, the jobs are not just, I shouldn't say just, but are not, hourly, piecemeal kind of jobs, right? There are actually a lot of engineering jobs, a lot of high-end, high-tech, reverse engineering, things that do that. And there was one business in particular in town that has probably, I would say, 25 employees. And the top earning 10 of those employees didn't live in this community. And so it's great to have those jobs, but if they're not living here and they're not working here and their kids aren't going to school here, how much of a benefit is it really to our community? So we started, Todd and I were just kicking around ideas. How could we do this? We knew that there's some infill lots that were in town. How could we get some housing built? With the idea being that it would be rental housing. It wouldn't necessarily be for low-income people, but that it would be, one or two things. Either we would have those rentals for higher-end professionals, or it would be for people that maybe wanted to transition from older people that were retired, that were transitioning out of their lake home, want to live in town, and weren't scared off by paying rent. And that would be a transition for them, or their place, their home, and that would open up a few more, nicer properties that maybe those people would be interested in buying. Because what we found out, and I think this takes place in a lot of small communities in Wisconsin, Minnesota, is if we can get people to come here, they'd stay. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to have a business. But if you get here and you realize that maybe it's not such a big deal that there isn't a Target or right next door. There's plenty of things to do and a lot of wonderful people here. So we started putting our heads together, trying to figure out what to do. And we knew some infield lots. And earlier, Mr. Anderson had actually put together call it a consortium of people. This is probably 40 years ago to build a fitness center in town. And he said, hey, what if we could apply that same model to housing? And once we identified the site, we started talking to people. We got a lot of really good reception from people in the community. And we were very clear that, listen, this isn't something we're going to make a lot of money on. In fact, I think the idea is if everybody gets their money back at the end of 10 years, that's a great outcome for everybody. But let's explore at least building some housing that could be used. And let's get the ball rolling. So let's use this organization to get the ball rolling. So we started doing that, and we were able to at this point, we've put together, I think, 27 people in our community that were willing to put up at least $10,000 to start this. And we're using that as the seed money to build this housing. We've got 2 duplexes, so 4 units that we're building are in construction right now. I mean, I don't think I have to say that, we've raised about $350,000. You can't build 2 duplexes for $350,000, so we've had to borrow some money. do some of that. But the idea is to do that. So we've got, rent is going to be, to make it work, and really just to kind of break even, we have to be at around $1,200 a month. For a duplex, it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in our area. That's probably the top of the market as far as rent goes. But we feel like the alternatives, there aren't there. We've had a lot of interest in them already. We have 4 units. We've got 1 rented. We've got a number of people that are still interested in that, and we're going to give it a shot, see how it works. So, I think in a lot of times these small communities, somebody's got to try something, and I think a lot of us felt like, this town's been really good to us. It's time for us to kind of give back and try to do something good for the town.